Welcome to Dovii Forum Insight Arena. Before we dive into this video to know more about the core challenges we face, I'd like to assure the viewers that this video will be both informative and emotionally resonant about the complexities of terrorism and more about its countermeasures. My friends, the goal is to go beyond the surface level discussions and to offer fresh perspectives and to inspire the viewers to think critically. Every day we are bombarded with images of violence, hatred and fear. Terrorism has become a shadow, a monster lurking in the corners of our world. But is it truly a beast that we can conquer with our bullets, our bombs, our drones alone? In this relentless pursuit of security, we have often lost sight of the bigger picture. We have reacted to the symptoms rather than addressing the disease. It is time that we peel back and ask the tough question, are we fighting the right enemy? To me, terrorism is a complex beast that requires a multifaceted approach, not just to be destroyed by bullets, bombs, or by drone attacks. Beneath the surface of these terrorist attacks, we find a complex tapestry of threads that are woven in poverty, inequality, and despair. These are perfect grounds where extremism takes its roots. To defeat it, we need to understand the enemy, not just the weapons that they wield. We've created a monster. Our heavy-handed approach has often pushed people into the shadows, making them more susceptible to radicalization. The allure of extremist ideologies lies with their promise of purpose, a sense of belonging in a world that often seems indifferent. They prey on the vulnerable, offering a very twisted narrative of hope and power. To combat this, we must offer a more compelling alternative, a vision of a world where everyone has a place, where dignity and opportunities are a norm. As I said, we need to understand the enemy, not just the weapons that they wield. The most potent weapon against terror, my friends, is not a drone. It's the human spirit. We build our resilience and make our communities less vulnerable. Only then can we hope to dismantle the breeding grounds of extremism. My dear friends, I had uploaded a video sometime back which is titled Unveiling the Truth, the Root Cause of Israel-Palestine Tensions. Those who haven't watched the video, I will leave a link in the description below. Do grab a watch. Now, after I had uploaded that video, I was asked a very simple question about why I portray Islam and all Muslims as bad. There is around 1.8 billion followers of Islam around the world, out of which we have around 205 million plus Muslims in India alone. So I don't see all of them in entirety as a threat to any civilized society. But it's this jihadist ideology that many Muslims around the world, and to some extent many Muslims in India too, hold. That mindset is of concern to me, and it should be a concern to everyone. So I like to ask my viewers today, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons alone? Let me know in the comments below so that we can build an interaction on that front. How could we win a war when we don't address the core issue ideologically? So to bring positive change, we do need to address the issue not only with guns, bullets and drones to counter these attacks, but we also need to bring a positive change in our society and address the core issue ideologically. So when we talk about Islam as an ideology, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but for myself, I can safely say this, and I'm sure all would agree, that all Muslims are not the problem. I don't know the best way to describe Sharia. I've been trying to help people understand the ideology behind or the doctrine of Sharia. And to me, that is the default line between the Muslims who are decidedly the problem and the ones that are not. Because they believe it is Allah's will, it's God's will to impose the program both on Muslims and non-Muslims alike. On the other hand, you have a lot of Muslims that don't follow the program. They don't even know what it's all about. They aren't imbued to the traditions of the faith as out of Saudi Arabia, for example. Now these Muslims are not the problem, at least not yet. But what makes these policy things so important to understand Islam? It seems to me that it is imperative that we understand that we are fighting an ideological war against people who are absolutely convinced of the supremacy of their ideology. It's not that we don't know this, we are aware of it. And for a practical matter, we are engaged in a situation that is vastly becoming worse, in part because we are embracing people who are imbued with that very ideology. This is why I come back to the idea of people or countries seeking to recognize Palestine, or the Muslim Brotherhood, or the Afghan Taliban, or the Pakistani Taliban. These are all, my friends, exponents of Sharia. It is part of the agenda that is explicitly to impose this program on everyone else. So yes, I'm against it totally. We as in countries tend to legitimize, sometimes even fund and arm these very entities, which should be stopped for good. I think we need to address this as an ideological war on one hand, and try and understand more about that ideology that is driving this violent jihad, as these fractions I named continue to call for jihad on the civilization we live in. Many in the government, I do not know if they are thinking about all this, because they are so focused on addressing terrorism, which again is the violent form of jihad in accordance to at least the terrorists. That is what they believe. So the government is focused on addressing terrorism, the violence that terrorism brings to the table, as that is what we get to see and witness with every attack. But they are missing entirely the other piece that I spoke about earlier in connection with jihad, which is the not so much the non-violent form of jihad with which they hope to ultimately take us down with, just as surely as the others who embrace the violent form of jihad seek to do the same. At the end of the day, it is something that brings them together, whether it is ISIS or the Pakistani Jaish-e-Mohammed, or the Afghan Taliban, the Pakistani Taliban, the Muslim Brotherhood, or the Al-Qaeda. There are dozens of other fractions around the globe by different names. They are all basically Sharia. We do have to get this straight. We can't say this group's practice is okay and that group's practice is not so okay with me. We can't distinguish between them as because in simple language they are all Sharia. The Pakistanis tried to do that by saying good Taliban and bad Taliban. It doesn't work that way. They all have the same mindset. Not once in my previous video or videos did I ever say that we must be against the Muslims. I am here to discuss on how we should be dealing with these terrorist attacks that take the lives of innocent people, be it in Israel, United States, United Kingdom, or even in India. What our governments are doing to ensure that these terrorist attacks don't take place over and over again. We are not here to bash Muslims. And since I was asked a question when I last posted a video on the Israel-Palestine war, I was asked this question as to why I portray Islam and all Muslims as bad. That is the reason why I made this video. Since I was asked this question, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are around 1.2 billion followers of Muslims around the world. And not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful and loving individuals. The radicals are estimated to be around 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. So that makes the majority 75% peaceful and loving individuals. But when you're looking at that 15 to 25% radical Muslim population, my friends, you'll be surprised. You are looking at a staggering 180 million to 300 million people that are dedicated to the destruction of not only the Western civilization but even the Indian civilization. The numbers that I just mentioned is bigger than the total Muslim population present in India. That's how big the number is. And for those who are watching from India, to put it in their perspective for them to understand, in India alone, India is a big country. We have about 1.4 billion people in population. Out of the 1.4 billion people, you're looking at 205 million that are practicing Muslims. And if you're to take the 15 to 25% of them are radicalized, you are looking at between 30 to 51 million radicalized individuals, which is a serious security threat to the country. So that is between 300 lakhs to 510 lakh radicalized Islamic individuals moving freely. This is the threat that the world faces today. Muslims are not the problem. All Muslims are not the problem. It's the radicals that are the problem. But the sheer number is scary. So why should we be worried about the radical 15 to 25% population when the majority are peaceful, loving people? Because, my friends, it is the radicals that kill and massacre, behead people, blow themselves up in the middle of the streets and take innocent lives. When you look throughout history, the lessons of history that we have learned, most Germans were peaceful and loving people. Yet, the Nazis managed to drive the agenda. As a result, 60 million people lost their lives. Almost 14 million in concentration camps, out of which 6 million were Jews. So the peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, I'm sure most of the Russians are very peaceful and loving people. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, I'm sure many Chinese are peaceful and loving people. The majority are. Yet they were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most of the Japanese were peaceful and loving individuals. Yet the Japanese were able to butcher their way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On the 11th of September 2001, there were 2.3 million Arabs living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, my friends, 19 radicals, to bring America down to its knees. They brought the World Trade Centers down. They attacked the Pentagon. America lost 3,000 lives that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. Then there are examples of our Indian citizens too losing their lives to these radicals. How can we forget 26/11 attack in Mumbai? The attacks in India, terrorist attacks, is endless. The list is long. So for all the powers of reasons of us talking about the peaceful and moderate Muslims, where are the others? Why are they not speaking out? Why we don't hear condemnation of the Israeli Supernova Music Festival attack, which led to the current Israel-Palestinian war that is taking place? Why we don't hear sharp condemnation of the Indian lives lost due to the Pakistani-sponsored terror attacks that take place in India? Why is there a silence? I am sure many of my Muslim friends and representatives would be raging mad after I upload this video. Instead, they should question the beliefs and practices of the community. Try and bring a positive change in the image that you have created. When I say you have created, I mean the community by large. Ask something about your fellow Indians who lost their lives, who died, and what you or the government is doing to correct the problem. I really do hope that these other peaceful, loving Muslims that we talk about start showing up in conservative forums that promote Sharia or Jihad and dare to speak their minds out there. That would be fun to witness. I would like to think that the Indian Muslims are not irrelevant. They are as much as an Indian as I am. I am saddened, deeply saddened about the lives that were lost in these terrorist attacks. And I hope that we will find justice for their families. But I don't think that this war can be won by the military or by force itself. We have to address them. We have to bring the Muslims to the table and address the issue. I think we all agree that it cannot be won by the military itself. So to my Muslim viewers who are watching, I would like you to enlighten me as to who is the head of your Muslim peace movement. I will ask the government in my next video to sit down with them and perhaps bring positive reforms for the Muslim community with a collective consensus of the community. Let me and the others know how we can hold our preachers and our government responsible. It is time that we take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs. The fight against terrorism is a global challenge. Hence, it requires a global solution. We must work together to share intelligence, disrupt terrorist networks, and promote human rights. My friends, the road ahead is long and difficult, but not impossible. By understanding the root causes, building resilience, and fostering cooperation, we can make terrorism a thing of the past. And may Sharia be declared an evil doctrine that should be banned. Thank you. This is Ivan Jude Smith signing off. Like this video, share this video around with as many people you know and ask them to do the same. Let others be aware of what Sharia truly is all about.